Welcome to the Trick Play Podcast. The full podcast is available on both YouTube and the Fresh Take Network, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Hello and welcome back to the Trick Play Podcast on the Fresh Take Network. I'm Simon Chaskovsky here with Caleb Peterson, and shortly we'll be breaking down all the sports-related news, rumors, and drama that you will want to hear about. This week, we kept it fairly short with the segments. That's a lie. Both the short segments are very long, but there's only two of them. We talked about our predictions for the NHL playoffs and then got into the NFL draft and predicted the top 10 before the draft happened so that you can watch it afterwards, because we're funky and cool like that, I guess. We're just that cool. Make sure to check us out on YouTube, Fresh Take Network, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, as we have new content coming out every single week on each and every one of those platforms. Caleb, are you ready to get into it?
Absolutely. We also predicted the NHL playoffs. I don't know if you said that.
I did say that, but that's okay.
But yes, absolutely.
We talked about it all.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, people get to hear it again.
Wow. Yeah. We got to throw up extra reminders.
That's just how
we roll. This is oh yeah. Alrighty. So, with the next one here, we're going to go through the NHL playoffs, pick who we think's going to win the entire thing. We're a little bit late to it. Who gives a shit? I don't care. You don't care. Let's have fun with it. Who gives a fuck? But the NHL obviously has already started its playoffs, as you can see by this fun little graphic that I made in half a second. We're just going to pretty much pick teams. We're not going to do games because that'll take too long. Yeah, I don't even really know how we're going to do this. I'll probably just write the team name, I guess. We'll do that. I don't know. Let's start.
Yeah.
Caleb,
we'll figure it out.
We'll start in the West. Dallas and Vegas.
Okay.
Vegas is currently up 1-0 after one game, obviously. Both teams definitely had an interesting showing through that one. Who do you have between the two of them coming out at the end of
this? This is kind of like this is a brutal first round series.
Yes.
My God. I think anybody who got Vegas was going to have a brutal first round series, just in terms of this could be a conference finals matchup, but it's just not, because of how Vegas is circumventing the cap. I, however, am going to, even though Vegas is already up 1-0, I'm going to stick to my guns, because I predicted Dallas to win the cup in our preseason predictions, and I'm impressed with myself that they're the number one team in the conference. And I'm going to stick to my guns here. I do think they're a good team, a deeper team than Vegas at this point. It's hard to bet against the defending Stanley Cup champions, but if there's any team that can take them down at this point, I think it's Dallas. I think Ottinger has shown that he can play well in the playoffs, as we've seen as Flames fan. I know he hasn't been the most consistent as of recently, but I think he'll be able to find his form, is what I'm hoping for. And I think Dallas should take this one. I know we're not going to do games, but I do think this is one that goes to 7.
Yeah, I mean, we can, if we want to throw it out quickly, that's fine. I agree with you. I think this one is going to go to 7. I am going the opposite way, though. I've got Vegas. I think this is the type of year where Vegas is kind of the evil empire. I have a really hard time seeing them going out in the first round after picking up as much as they did. So personally, I'm going Vegas. I think they're super scary. I'm very scared for the entire West, honestly. The fact that they're a wild card team should not be the case at all. I think we all know that. They are far more talented than that. I have them beating Dallas, which on the standings would be an upset. In reality, I don't know if it would be.
It's pretty even.
Yeah, it is pretty even.
I don't think either of these teams could be considered an upset.
Yeah. Well, and that's the nice thing about the West this year, at least in my opinion. It is, there's a lot. It's very even. A lot of these series, especially towards the top half here, and the next one we're going to talk about. I was going to say the Pacific. Yeah, no, the Pacific isn't as much, but at least we're going to go into Winnipeg and Colorado now. That's another one where, at least in my opinion, that's flipping a coin. Both of those teams are so good. Both of those teams could win it this year. It's really, at least for me, it's really tough. So I'll let you go first on this one, because I'm curious as to who.
I'm going Colorado just based on playoff experience at this point and higher end talent. that's the reason I'm going to go Colorado. I think in the playoffs and stuff matters. I think Winnipeg is the goaltending edge, which is tough to fight back, especially in the playoffs. But it's not like Colorado has bad goaltending in Georgiev. Although maybe that game one kind of goes against that a little bit. 7-6. But I do think having players that have already won the Stanley Cup, having maybe not as deep of a team as Winnipeg. Like, I do think Winnipeg is a deeper
Winnipeg's
team.
definitely got more depth, yeah.
But I think having guys like Winnipeg does not have a McKinnon. Winnipeg does not have a Rantanen. This isn't like I said, at Dallas Vegas, I picked Dallas because they're the deeper team. But I don't think Vegas does not have the same star power that the Avs have. And I think in this matchup, especially with a team like Winnipeg, also Dallas is playoff tested still. Like, Dallas has made it into the Western Conference Finals.
That's true.
And made it far in the playoffs year after year after year, where Winnipeg has been kind of like a first round exit, second round maybe type of team.
Yeah, no,
in the last 5 years. So I don't know if it's quite their year yet.
Yeah. Well, it's the new guys versus.
They're a little bit fluky.
It's the yes. Okay, that's fair because it's the new guys on the block versus the, at this point, longtime contenders in the Avs, right? Like, and I really like this Winnipeg team. So even though I could fully see the Avs beating them, like I said, I think it's a coin toss. I'm gonna give the edge to Winnipeg because they're more fun.
Wow.
Yeah, no, quite literally, that's my logic on that one. Because I think both of these teams are very even. I think they're both very good in their own ways. I really want the Jets to win this series. I think that'd be so... I really want to see them go on a run. Is it because they have Sean Monahan and Toffoli? No! So yeah, that's my opinion. We can move on. We can move on further down the west side. Vancouver, Nashville. This one's interesting because now Vancouver is going to have to play the whole first round without Thatcher Demko, which completely changes things. I watched game 2. I don't know. Caleb, did you watch that one?
I actually did catch the end of it.
Okay. I will come outright and say that I didn't think DeSmith was as bad as a lot of people have kind of framed it. I don't think any of those goals were at all his fault. Vancouver's defense was utterly terrible that entire game. Their offense, I think the stat was Nashville had over 35 blocked shots in the entire game, which is absolutely nuts. Compared to Vancouver's 16 shots on goal. That pretty much tells you the whole story of the entire game. I thought DeSmith was fine. I think I don't actually think he'll be the big game changer. I don't think, as long as he can make the key saves, they'll be fine. I still have Vancouver coming out on top, at least in this one. Demko doesn't change too much.
Yeah, obviously, Demko still does change things.
Yes.
Because not having a guy who's been a Vezina candidate, if not one of the leaders for the Vezina this season, obviously is going to make a difference. But
yes.
Part of the reason Vancouver's been so good is that they've had depth at the goaltending position through DeSmith, who has been a good backup this season.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to lose because of them. I also have Vancouver. I think they just don't feel like a first-round exit type of team to me.
No.
Even though I do think they should be, this is not a gimme. I think they should very much be. This would be...
Nashville is a very good team. Their defense is very impressive. Recently. Yeah, their defense is very impressive.
And if you are a believer in momentum, this is a series where you could easily see the Predators coming out on top.
No.
Because Vancouver had their hot streak early in the season, and have been kind of just treading water since.
Yeah.
Whereas Nashville has really come on near the end of the season to take that playoff spot. It's something that I do think Vancouver has just proven to be the overall better team throughout the season. So I'm still going to go with them. But it is one of the ones where it's I wouldn't be shocked if Nashville won.
No, and I absolutely agree.
I think, yeah, I don't think they're going to make it any further than that if they do. But
well, at least for me, if... Oh, wait, I was actually... I don't agree with that. I was going to say, I could fully... I mean, they'd be playing Edmonton. Okay. Well, they would be playing Edmonton in the next round. Yeah, I was going to say, they'd be playing Edmonton in the next round, which would be a tough series for them. But I mean, if I like them a lot. I like the way they play. They have a very defensive style to them, which I mean, we'll see. We'd have to see how it goes for 'em. Who knows? But yeah, I guess I don't necessarily disagree with you. Second round might be their peak because Edmonton might throttle them a little bit. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want to explain why you have Edmonton taking LA?
Because they beat them literally like the last 2 years, and this series just feels like a gimme. I don't know. Like at this point, LA just feels like I don't know.
They're here for fun.
This is literally they're just here. They've been the first round matchup for the Oilers like literally 3 years in a row at this point. Some of those series have been close.
Yeah.
But they're not up with McDavid or Draisaitl, and I do think this is one of the better Oilers been there in the last few years.
Yes. When I look at this Oilers and LA matchup, I don't like it for the Kings at all. From what we saw in game 1, it was destruction. LA quite literally couldn't really get anything to really go. The Oilers looked dominant. McDavid looked like it was the best we'd seen from him in years. Like, this Oilers team looks really scary this year. And I have a really hard time betting against them, especially when the team on the other side is LA. I think that second round series, when we get to it, Canucks and Oilers for both of us, is a really interesting one. I think that has the potential to be, if we see it, again, big fat if, Nashville is looking really good. If we do see it, though, I think that could be a really, really fun series. But we can move on to the East if you're ready to do that. First one at the top of the board, Florida and Tampa. Florida is already up 2-0 as of Wednesday, April 24th. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, like, these East series, I feel like we can run through a lot faster because it's just going to be a lot of chalk. Like, Florida Tampa is more interesting than especially the stuff we're seeing in the Metro this year. But I do think at this point, Florida is just a more talented team than Tampa.
Yeah.
Florida is kind of like on the upswing, reaching their peak, whereas Tampa is very much like not that anymore.
No.
It's very good. Like, it's a very interesting series. We love the Battle of Florida. Tampa will probably steal a game or two, but especially like of knowing a couple games in advance. But I mean, they're already up 2-0. I don't think Tampa Bay at this point in history has the talent to flip that around. We have the.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you at all. I think Florida's going to end up coming out on top in this one. I just don't think Tampa has it anymore. I think if they have the top-end talent, like Kucherov is still as good as ever. We saw that in the regular season, and he has been fine so far in this series. I just think, I don't think they have enough anymore. They need to, I don't know. Oh, Caleb disappeared. Anyway, I'll keep talking here and hope that Caleb reappears here. Oh, here he comes. He's loading back in here. There he is. Caleb reappeared like a magician.
My
I have no idea what you're saying.
completely crap.
Your computer crapped out?
Oh my god, can you hear me?
I can now, yeah. I was just going to say I have the same opinion. Florida's probably going to win. I don't think it's going to be a sweep.
Okay, yeah.
I think Tampa probably pulls out a game here, but I do think Florida ends up coming out. And it's probably going to end up being very similar to how the first two games went, where it's going to be a lot of dominance on the Florida side because, like you said, they're on the up. They're going to keep on getting better. I really like that Florida team a lot. So I think they have the potential to go far, and I don't think Tampa's going to be the team that stops them. We can move on here to Boston and Toronto. That's the next one here. This one, I mean, I have an opinion on this one, but I'll let you go first.
I mean, this is the series that we've seen time and time again, and Toronto has never come out on top, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was 4-1 or
But
like
Caleb, this is their year.
They've always been close.
This is their year,
I
Caleb.
mean, I don't know. I think it actually might be to a certain extent.
Whoa.
Because I do have the Leafs.
No way!
That's because, I do. And I think every bracket needs to have some sort of upset.
Yep.
And I think, well, this isn't necessarily the biggest upset, like, points-wise. In terms of storylines, it absolutely is. Because we've never seen, like, this Toronto team come out on top in one of these series. I think it goes to 7, like all of these series have, right? Like, these series have always been close. It's about the fact that the Leafs haven't pulled it off in clutch time. And I do think, like, we've talked about this before, I do think having the monkey off the back of having not won a first-round series since 2004 helps them, where at least they have a little bit less pressure. I mean, it's still Toronto. They're still going to have a boatload of pressure because it's Toronto. But I still think they have a little bit of a monkey off the back in terms of that.
Oh, sure.
And I do think overall they are the more talented team. But
they've been the more talented team for the last 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, that's never been the answer. But I do think if any iteration of Toronto was going to pull this off, I think it was going to be this year.
Okay.
Which I know is what they say every year.
Yeah.
But I could see it happening, and I could see it setting up. Like, I also really like the rematch that sets up in the second round.
Yeah.
That Florida-Toronto series, if that happens, would be very cool.
Yeah. And in my opinion, the sky is blue, grass is green, Boston beats Toronto. At least to me, it's... I will never, until it happens, I will never bet on Toronto against Boston. Not in a million years. I'm not saying I'd put the house on it. I'm not saying that I actually think that Boston necessarily is the better team out of the two. I just think in a playoff series, going to 7, Boston takes it. And we've seen it over and over, and it feels like, it's, at this point, this series is Boston's to lose. Because you know the mental games at play. You know the history. I don't know. I cannot pick Toronto over Boston in a situation like this, especially with the history of this Boston team. Even if they haven't been here in in the past, they have been playoff juggernauts. They still have a lot of those players. They have a lot of playoff experience. I could see them potentially. If they beat Toronto, I think they could also give Florida a pretty decent fight. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch for sure. But we can move on. We have 15 minutes here roughly based on the. So we're going at decent
Well, we
pace.
can rip through these next two.
That's true. Okay.
Very fast.
So do you want me to just put them on the board then?
Rangers, Hurricanes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Capitals don't deserve to be here. They have like a negative 40 goal differential. The Rangers won the President's Trophy. I know that's not necessarily always a good thing in playoff hockey, but in the first round, it's not going to matter. They're already up 2-0, not going to change. Hurricanes, Islanders, same kind of thing. Islanders are a little bit more deserving to be here, but the Hurricanes, I honestly think, not to spoil my pick for the next series, but I think they're an even better team than the Rangers.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be close. I wouldn't be shocked if both of these are sweeps.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were saying Rangers and Canes is going to be a sweep. But that was where that reaction came from. Other than that, no, I don't disagree with you. I think Washington's had its moments.
Rangers Capitals. Yeah.
Yes. I would nenever pick Washington to beat the Rangers after going down 2-0. Come on, Ovi. I believe. Do it, Ovi. Come on. For me, Ovi.
Their best player is probably still a 40-year-old Ovechkin.
Yes.
I don't.
No, they shouldn't be here.
World in which they make it even.
They shouldn't be here, but they won't be here long. Yeah, we can move on. Next is.
As we're already seeing.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think we probably start in the West again. Vegas Jets for me, Dallas Avs. So this is the one series, I think, where we have completely different teams. And I think that just shows how that Western side looks, especially on pretty much entirely the Central. Like how powerful that Central division is. I mean, it's just nuts, right? But anyway, you can go first if you want with your Dallas Avs series. I think that would be an awesome series as well.
I think it's a great series too. Again, I just think I'm gonna stick to my guns and pick Dallas just because of how deep of a team they are. Like it's like they've got pretty much everything. They have. I know that hasn't been consistent. They've got good goaltending. They've got good top end talent with Jason Robertson, and they've got good scorers all the way down their roster. I mean, because that's the one thing again that you have against Colorado is that they don't have necessarily like they have the star power, but they don't have much past that.
And Georgiev hasn't been
I think
terrific
this is the series
either.
where the Stars take. No. But like looking at like Dallas, when you have a third line of Stankoven, Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnston,
Yeah.
like that's an insanely good third line, especially with some of that young talent, like Stankoven especially. I don't know, like I don't see, and this team again. Both teams have been playoff tested, obviously, in the last few years.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels like Dallas is always the team that comes one step short, and I think this is their year.
Yeah.
Looking at the Avs roster, they seriously have Zach Parise starting right now on the first line.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Well, he
I think
scored. He scored
that
yesterday.
can get them through oh my word!
Parise scored
a goal in
2024. Yeah. Yeah, nobody would ever try and tell you that the Avs have the best depth in the world. Not to say that I don't think
this would be a... No. I think at this point in the playoffs, I think that's why Dallas gets the win. I think they're just the better team.
To add to your take as well, I think the entire Western Conference, to a degree, is going to be decided by who wins this Dallas and Vegas series. That is my opinion. Because I think the two best teams are playing in the first round right now, at least on the Western side. And I think at the end of the day, that's being shown by you having Dallas beating the Avs, and that's going to be shown on my side as well. Vegas, I think, beats the Jets. I think that's a really good series. I think both teams are very deep. I think both teams have good goaltending. Both teams have everything you need to win a cup. It's just that the Vegas Golden Knights have more. They have more talent. They have more top end. They have more depth. They don't have better goaltending, but I don't think that's going to be the decision maker. I think Vegas takes it. I think this is the type of thing where I think Vegas goes far again. Like, they're so good this year. It's, like I said, Evil Empire, everybody versus the Golden Knights. At least to me when I look at this Western side. But we can move on. This is a series where we have the same teams in the Canucks and Oilers. This is one that I really hope happens in real life because it'd be so fun to watch two Canadian teams going at it. At least on my side of things, it would be the only two Canadian teams left. Who do you have coming out on top?
I have Edmonton coming out on top here.
Okay.
I think you worry Demko isn't going to be ready against Nashville. While a concern, it's not going to kill you. Against a team like the Oilers, where you need every edge possible, if he doesn't start, then that's like, ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, especially against the kind of offense and power play that Edmonton has. Like, they already scored 7 goals or whatever it was in their first game against the Kings. You're going to need to be good. And especially, like you said, that Canucks defense was not looking very good against Nashville.
If they bring that defense...
better against...
They will have Demko. As far as we've heard, they will have Demko. No, I think it's pretty much confirmed
for the first round.
Yeah, like, I think from what I've heard, there's a potential he'd be back for Game 7 of the first round.
Okay.
So I think it's a foregone conclusion, at least from what I've heard, that he'd be back for Game 1 of the second round. I think that's a huge thing. They need Demko back. If they are playing with DeSmith, no way in hell, because the only goals that DeSmith has, if the only goals that DeSmith has really let in that haven't been either like just no goalie would save it or just insane screens or just flukes and all that, have been goals scored by elite players. Where it's the type of thing where you need an elite goalie to stop McDavid on a breakaway, right? It's that type of thing, right? In a matchup, one-on-one, do you like McDavid versus DeSmith or McDavid versus Thatcher Demko? Right? It comes down to that.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you need Demko. I think that changes things a lot. I do agree with you, though. I think the Oilers come out on top. They are stupid good this year. Every time I've watched, especially in that first round game against LA, I know nobody's too impressed with LA right now, but everyone was talking about their defense. Their defense looked like Swiss cheese. The Edmonton Oilers sliced that shit up. Their power play was unstoppable. They looked like a team that was going to go stupid far this year. They looked like a team that was destined for greatness offensively. They have probably, in my opinion, the best ceiling for an offensive team in the playoffs this year. So I think they're super scary. I think they could absolutely win against anybody in the playoffs this year. It's just whether they do it. And we don't know if they can. Yep. We don't know if they have that playoff ability quite yet. They've gone to the conference finals a few times. For both of us, they're going to go to the conference finals one more time. Yeah, but we can move on. Florida, you have Florida, Toronto. I have Florida, Boston. Who do you have?
I'm going to continue to make you mad.
Whoa.
I have Toronto upsetting Florida.
Whoa. They did want Florida.
They did want Florida.
Wow.
Again, I think that
you have a Canadian team on both sides of the bracket.
Talent. I do. Spoiler alert, neither of them are going to go to the Stanley Cup final. Anyways. But with Toronto, talent has never been the issue.
Yeah.
I think they match up pretty well with Florida talent-wise. I think goaltending is kind of scary, going Bobrovsky versus Samsonov. Yikes.
That's
not very fun for Toronto there.
I don't know what you're talking about. Matt Murray's
anybody's going to be
with
motivated to win that series. With the Joseph Wall crowd in there.
Oh yeah.
But I think if any team is going to be motivated to win this series, it's going to be Toronto after what happened last year.
Yes.
And I mean, you got to pick some upsets in there. And what better upset would there be than for Toronto to actually do well in the playoffs? I just think at a certain point, it's gonna happen where they're gonna make a deep run. They have too much talent to not. And I know that's been year after year. That's been the conversation. But I don't know. I don't know why I feel in my gut it's gonna happen this year. Maybe I have my own little not a Leafs fan, but maybe I have my own little delusional little Leafs fan inside me.
Yeah,
that's telling me to make these picks.
Do you wanna see me piss off? Do you wanna watch both of us piss off?
Cinderella upset.
Yeah. Do you want to see both of us pissed off?
Do you have Boston?
I have Boston. Not because they're the better team, for the same reason you just listed. We both need a Cinderella. Your Cinderella is Toronto. My Cinderella is Boston. I think they have a lot of the depth.
That's such a lame Cinderella.
Oh, I know. I know.
Bruins.
Oh, I know. It ain't nothing new. It ain't nothing new. I think on the other side, we got Rangers and Canes. We both have Rangers and Canes. This is one where it's arguably two of the best teams in the playoffs this year.
This will be one of the Dallas, Vegas, and then this series are going to be. I think obviously this series. Not guaranteed yet.
Yeah.
I think these series will be the two that decide the Stanley Cup.
I have a funny feeling I know your answer to this one. I think I have the same answer. The Canes are too good this year, right?
Especially after they got Gensel.
Yeah, they're too good this year.
The fact that after, I think they know that this is not to reuse the phrase, but I think this might be their year more than it has been past years. Them as a team who
this
normally
is the
doesn't
best
go all in on
Hurricanes.
the trade deadline,
Yeah.
for them to go out and get the biggest fish on the market, there's a reason. Like you just said, this is the best Hurricanes team I think we've seen.
Yeah.
In a conference that doesn't have some of the juggernauts that they've had in the past.
Yep, that's also true.
You don't have the Tampa Bay teams of the late 2010s coming and just thrashing them whenever they make it far.
The East,
I think if there's a window opening for them, this
a lot weaker outside of the Rangers. The Rangers are the one true test. I think it. Let's say in a magical world, because the hardest team they could face.
Discredit the Rangers.
Yeah, no, not at all.
This will be probably a 7-game series.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But I think, take away what we both said about Boston and Toronto meeting the Canes in the playoffs. The hardest team that they could meet in the Eastern Conference Finals is Florida. And in that series, I think the Canes beat Florida in 5 or 6 games. I just don't. That's how high I am on them. I think they're such an insane team this year and that's not me saying that I think Florida's bad. I don't know what you can do. Like, Freddie Anderson is playing well. That would have been their one hole if he didn't turn things around here. But he's having a fairly good run at it. And I think the sky's the limit. The only thing that could really stop the Canes this year is the Canes.
Yep. No, and I would agree with that. And I think, I know we're kind of going west-east here. I think this just parlays really well into picking the Eastern Conference Finals for me, if we want to go into that.
Nuts.
Where you say that the only thing that beat the Canes is the Canes. And in terms of, like...
Do you have the Canes beating the Canes?
The Eastern Conference Finals. No, I don't. But only because I think the team they're up against has even bigger monkeys on their back than the Canes do. So I have the Hurricanes advancing. I think the Eastern Conference Finals it's been their toughest round.
Yes.
They have not won an Eastern Conference Finals game in the last however many years, despite being in the Eastern Conference Finals 3 of the 4 years. They got swept 3 years in a row. That's terrible. So
what's the stat? They've lost 12 straight Eastern Conference games or whatever it was. It's insane.
Yeah. Because I think they've literally gotten swept 3 years in a row. But as I think the one team that I think does have more talent than this Toronto team, also the Toronto team that think about last year, Florida versus Carolina. Florida literally had nothing to lose. Because they were the Cinderella at that point. Even though Toronto is kind of the quote-unquote Cinderella in this bracket,
they're not
everything to lose considering the history at stake.
Yeah.
The
further you go,
really
the further you go, if you're Toronto, the heavier that monkey gets. Yeah, the heavier that monkey gets. If they're in the Eastern Conference Final, the whole NHL is going nuts.
Yes, especially when it's a milestone that they haven't reached in this long.
Yeah, and you got it.
That's why I think the second round will be a little bit easier for them, because you don't have all the conversation around oh my god, it's the first time in the second round since 2004. Yeah. You don't have all that conversation necessarily again. But this time it's oh my god, first time in the Eastern Conference Final since however long
Toronto
it's been.
might be the team.
Can they actually win a Stanley Cup for the first time since 1967?
Toronto might be the first Canadian team to win it. And then not only do they have the pressure of Toronto, they have the pressure of Canada on their shoulders at that point, where things just get heavier and heavier and heavier. And you got to think about it like this: for them to make the Eastern Conference Final, for them to beat Boston, for them to beat Florida, their goaltending must have gotten better. Whether that's Samsonov, whether that's Wool, whether that's Matt Murray, it doesn't matter, right? That they must have a goalie who's playing well. So at that point, Toronto's got it figured out. They're going into this series. They're feeling good. They're a well-oiled machine. And if I had them going as far as you did, I have them choking. I just don't think that I don't think that they could hold a candle to the Canes. I think the only
Neither do I.
Yeah, I mean in this, I think we have very similar opinions. I have the Canes going to the finals. I mean, I like this Boston team a lot. I don't think this is that close of a series, but I think Boston could maybe pull out a game or two. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting. That's for sure. I think if you want to move to the Western Conference side of things, we both have the Oilers. You have Dallas. I have Vegas. As we talked about, it's the tough thing of, I don't know. It's the two teams that are probably the best in the West versus the offensive powerhouse in the Oilers. It's the same conversation in both series, no matter what.
And I think that I'm going to have Dallas here again.
Okay.
Because it's just the same series that they just had, except with better high-end talent. And a little bit better depth.
Yeah, that's
and I
true.
still think they come out on top.
Okay.
I do think a lot of this is predicated on Ottinger playing really well, but I do think he has that in him, especially for the playoffs. I think we'll see that. This will be a close series. This will be a good series. But again, the Oilers also, it's nowhere near as big as the Leafs. But there is a lot of pressure similar to the Canes, where they've been in the Western Conference Finals a lot and haven't been able to pull through, and I don't think this is the year. I think Dallas is just a deeper and better team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Dallas would be the better team there. I think when it comes to, it doesn't matter if it's Dallas versus the Oilers. It doesn't matter if it's Vegas versus the Oilers. If it's either of those teams taking on the Oilers, at least to me, it doesn't matter how good Dallas plays. It doesn't matter how good Vegas plays. We know what we're going to get out of them. We know the teams they have. We know the depth they have. It just comes down to how good the Oilers. Does McDavid show up? Can McDavid still dominate at the highest level of the game? Can he pull the Oilers to the top? And I have a really tough time picking this one because I think Vegas is so good this year. I think this is the best Vegas team we've probably ever seen, and they won the Cup last year. You got to think about it like that, right? This is the best Vegas team we've seen. This is also the best Oilers team we've seen. And I think it comes down to their goaltending. I think Stuart Skinner really needs to play well, and I don't like him. I don't like him as a starter over there. I don't think he's that impressive. I think for the sake of this, I'm going to take Oilers. Let's have fun. I don't know. I think it's a coin flip.
Wow.
I think it's really tough, which results in a 2006 Stanley Cup Finals rematch. And,
I was going to say.
And if you want to put Vegas there, I'm okay with it. If you want to put Oilers there, I think this is an upset. When I say this, Vegas losing to the Oilers, I think that's an upset. But the Oilers are so good offensively, and I think it is going to take a legitimate juggernaut to take them out of the playoffs. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I'll let you go first. Dallas and Canes, which would be a really good finals.
That's going to be a really good matchup.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know if you, I'm pretty sure this was my exact preseason prediction.
I mean, it'd be a safe one. Yeah, it'd be a safe one.
Why deviate from what I predicted? And I'm going to go Dallas again. I picked Dallas to win the Cup before the season started. Why would I change now? I don't think there's... I think that obviously this is going to be their toughest test yet. I think this is going to be a very good series. I think this is going to be a very good Stanley Cup final. I think these are pretty much clearly the best two teams in the league at this point. And I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily have I think this is, like you said, a coin flip. I do think these teams are very evenly matched.
Well, this is your series here has the best of the best. These are the two deepest teams, arguably. They're both, assuming if Dallas gets this far, Ottinger's figured it out, right? That's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
Both of these teams have good goaltending. They have great defense. They have that top end scoring. This is going to be an absolute just heavyweight battle, and either team could come out on top. There's not a clear favorite.
Yep.
When I look at this,
flip a coin.
You flip a coin, exactly. I don't disagree with your pick. I like Dallas this year. I think they're really fun. I think they have all the pieces.
I give the edge to Dallas because if Ottinger figures it out, I think he has a better high-end talent than what Carolina has in Anderson.
Okay, that's fair. I won't disagree with that.
That's kind of my edge.
I will say that Anderson, as of right now, is definitely better than the way that Ottinger's been playing. But which makes it a little bit tougher for me. But
if they go on a run, we're projecting this all the way up to the Stanley Cup Finals.
True. True.
I think at this point, Ottinger's gotten hot.
Yeah.
And I'm taking that over
what
Carolina
We're
has.
running long here, so I'll give my Stanley Cup pick. I already kind of hinted at it, but let me set the stage here. It's a 2006 rematch. The Oilers have beat all of the odds. They beat the Canucks, who people went into this season... when they were on that run at the beginning of the year, people were going insane over the Canucks. They were going to be this was their year. Oilers beat the Canucks. They go into the conference finals. They take on Vegas, the demon of a team that beat them last year. And they beat Vegas. They get that monkey off their back. They beat the team that eliminated them last year. Now the only thing in their path is the team that beat them in their last visit to the Stanley Cup Finals. This is the Oilers' chance to clear the slate. This is their chance to really, really, truly start their dynasty. And then they lose to the Canes in 6. That is my prediction. I think... I don't think it's that they choke. I don't think it's anything like that. I think they lose to the better team. It just comes down to that. I think the Canes find a big hole in Stuart Skinner. I think that McDavid, I think he has a great series. I don't think it's enough. I don't think that McDavid can truly outpower this Canes team that feels like they're destined for greatness. At least to me, I think in a different world where Vegas beats the Oilers, which, like I said, it's a coin flip, I think that's a very similar series to Dallas and Canes. I think I'd still have the Canes taking it. But, God. I don't know. I think that we both kind of made safe picks at the end of the day. We both have...
Yeah.
You have Dallas. I have Canes. We both had Canes coming out of the eastern side. We both had... I mean, probably one of the top 3 teams coming out of the West. I think it's either going to be Vegas, Dallas, or Oilers. Canucks as a sneaky 4. But I think, for the most part, that one of those top 3 is basically the safe pick for the finals. I think it'll be interesting. I think we both have pretty good picks, though.
I think so, too. All right. So, as of recording, the NFL draft, at least the first round, starts tomorrow.
Wait. Yeah.
It's probably by the time I'm saying it's probably by the time most people will probably know what happens in the draft. Do you want to restart that?
No, I'm good. I'm happy with this. It shows how much we planned going into this one. Yeah, no, the draft will have already happened, or at least, I mean, this will probably come out Saturday. So is that just the first round, or is that first how many?
Most of it will have. Yeah, it will have all happened at that point. It's okay because we all know that mock drafts always get everything correct.
That's true. That's true.
So we're gonna be So we're basically just analyzing the draft already. This is what's gonna happen, so we're analyzing it.
Yeah, we know. We actually got the list a day early.
We did. The NFL gave us a preview. We know what we're talking
very,
about.
Very kind of the NFL to do.
Roger Goodell reached out specifically just to
the
podcast.
Yeah. He's like, listen, guys. This is gonna help you guys out.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks,
He
Roger.
wants to see young growing podcasts. Yeah.
There you go. That's what
Roger
he really
Goodell
cares about.
The Trick Play podcast.
Roger Goodell and cool has never been used in the same sentence.
We're breaking boundaries here.
Yeah.
So, Roger Goodell sent us a list, aka ESPN's most recent mock draft, and that's what's going to happen. So we're going to analyze it for you and break down every pick, how they fit with their team, and then if for whatever reason that doesn't happen on draft day, then the teams are stupid and they should just go with what's here because that's easier for us. Anyways, we can start with number 1 for this mock draft, and this one, I can actually be certain that it's what's going to happen. This is actually, we're analyzing, all bits aside, this is what's going to happen. Caleb Williams at 1 to the Chicago Bears. This has been what's talked about since the season ended, and even before that. People have known that this is the pick. You get some contrarians closer to draft season saying, oh no, but what about Jaden Daniels going number 1? I think he's actually a better quarterback. No. Come on. It's Caleb Williams. We've talked about Caleb Williams before, Simon, but how do you see him fitting with the Bears?
Well, I mean, it's the type of thing where its best quarterback goes to the team that needs a quarterback probably the most right now after trading away Justin Fields. And whether you think he's the best or not, he's going to be the guy who goes here. I don't imagine a world where Jaden Daniels goes first. I mean, if he does, this ends up being a much funnier episode to watch back on Saturday. Yes. But I mean, at least in my own head, I don't see a world where it happens. I think even the Bears have pretty much, in what they've done leading up to the draft, have pretty much just said, yeah, we're taking this guy. This is our guy. We've made it clear to him. We've made it clear to pretty much the whole world at this point that Caleb Williams is going to be a Chicago Bear, whether he likes it or not at this point. And I mean, from what we've seen, from what he said going into the draft season about whether basically if he was going to get drafted by a team he didn't want to play for, he would just not go. He was saying something along the lines of that. He'd just stay in college. Clearly, if things have gotten this far, he wants to go to Chicago.
Can't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, it's a little late now.
It's a little too late for that.
Yeah, but I think it's been well known that the first pick would be Chicago for a while now. So I think it's fairly obvious he does legitimately want to go to Chicago. And, I mean, I guess we'll see how that works out for him. It hasn't worked out very well for many of his predecessors, but...
It's true. But I do think Chicago now is a much better landing spot for Caleb Williams than a lot of other people. You look at the not like these guys were much better quarterbacks, but you look at guys like Justin Fields, for example. Gets drafted highly, but had literally nothing around him. You look at the offense the Bears have built for Caleb Williams. Justin Fields, he had DJ Moore, but only in his last year. He didn't have a terrible offensive line, which hasn't gotten that much better. But you get Keenan Allen in there. You also have the number 9 pick, which we'll get to later, but will probably be used to draft either a receiver or an offensive lineman. And that helps Caleb Williams out even more. If you get a guy like, likely Roma Dunze is the one that's been linked to them at 9, then that's an insanely good receiver core. And for a guy like Caleb Williams, who's been more talented than any quarterback the Bears have probably ever had in their franchise history, if he lives up to what he did in college. Obviously, that's a question mark for every player. No player is a perfect prospect. But Caleb Williams there's a reason he's been talked about as a generational kind of guy. He shows the kind of talent that you see from guys like Patrick Mahomes. And there's some worries about him not being able to... there's some worries about the fact that his last season wasn't as good as the season before, but that's mostly to do with the team around him. At USC being very bad. There's some worries about him not being able to play as much in structure as just kind of like freelancing around. But again, that was kind of done out of necessity, considering how bad the team around him was.
Yeah, and there's been conversations as well about his personality. That has been one that people have brought up recently. And I mean, especially going into draft, when the off season has come and pretty much every tweet that he put out or everything he says is getting monitored under like a... I mean, it's just the type of thing... Yeah, microscope, whatever. It's just the type of thing where, I mean, at least to me, you gotta take a bit of it with a grain of salt. He seems like a very confident guy, and I don't really see how that's that much of a bad thing, especially considering you're going into a league where you are expected to have... I mean, the expectation has to be Rookie of the Year immediately. I think, sure, if he's a little bit... If he shows promise, but he clearly just isn't there yet, you have to sit there and go, okay, that's fine. But I think that has to be the expectation. You have to expect him to come out and just immediately succeed with the weapons around him. And, I mean, I guess we'll see if it happens. It's the type of thing where there's a lot of rookie quarterbacks who come into the league and we think they're sure things and then they're really not, including Bryce Young last year. Like, it's just, it's clearly just a sign that, I mean, it's a coin flip at the end of the day, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but I mean, Bryce Young was never the same level of prospect that Caleb Williams was. I mean, there's been conversations. I mean, I've watched a lot of drafts, podcasts, and content over the last couple months, and there's been some people who watch a lot more college film than I do, who have put Caleb Williams and Drake May and Jaden Daniels all above what Bryce Young was last year. Not all number 1 picks are created equal.
Yeah.
People have talked about Caleb Williams more in line with the Trevor Lawrence or the Andrew Lucks of the world. That's kind of the bar that we're looking at for him. That's a lot of pressure, but it also means, like, yes, that is...
I think he's ready for it.
You talked about.
Yeah, I think he's ready for it.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think he knows that's going to be the case. He's known that was going to be the case since for however long at this point, 2 or 3 years that we've been talking about this guy.
Probably 2 years, especially after last season.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty well known that he was going to go first overall. He's being named with people like Trevor Lawrence, like Andrew Luck. I think, for the most part, it doesn't feel... If I were him, I think he knows what he's getting into, is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, we've talked about the whole personality concerns thing on, like, other episodes of the podcast, and, like, it's like, I don't even want to give them time of day because they're complete and utter garbage.
I mean, I don't agree with everything he says. I will say that. There are a few things that I'll read and go, it kind of gives me a bit of a red flag. But, I don't know.
What kind of stuff is
I don't even remember. I don't even remember anymore. This would have been months ago. But, like, it's just... I don't know. It's small enough that I don't care.
In a bad light.
Yes. And I also think most NFL prospects are fairly confident, even if he's just the only one who's saying it. Like, I think it's just the difference of... Maybe it's the fact that I don't like how much he puts out there. Maybe it's that. Because I'm not a huge fan of that in... Although, maybe... I don't know. Maybe I'm talking on my ass. Who knows? Don't listen to me.
I don't know. I mean, I think the two things that I heard were, A, he doesn't want to play... Like, he'll choose to go back to college, which we talked about.
Yeah.
And that obviously didn't happen. And then there was the part about the rumor about him wanting a stake in ownership in the team that he gets drafted to. But I think that was just a rumor because we haven't heard literally anything
that's true.
other than the rumor when it came. Like, I think all of it is just smoke and mirrors. It's people want to knock down a guy because he, like, the stuff I see is always, like, he paints his nails and he cried after he lost to Washington.
That's the stuff that I don't care about. Yeah, that's, like... like, who cares?
That's literally a non-issue, if not a positive, especially in the case of, like, crying after a loss. You want guys like that who care about team success versus guys who, like, one of the reasons we see top talents flame out in the NFL is because they don't care and they don't go to meetings. Like, look at Johnny Manziel, right?
Yeah.
Like, guy has all the talent in the world, but he couldn't care about football and he's going to go out and party instead.
Well,
right?
now he's apparently making a
like
golf career. I don't know if you heard about that. I think I saw that like a week or two. He's trying to... It was a headline. He pretty much came out and said that he wants to make the PGA by, like... What was the date? He set like 2032 or something like that. He's giving himself a lot of time, but all the comments were like, "Same, bro." Me too. Well, I mean, who knows? I don't think any of us have seen him golf, so.
That's true. Maybe he's
he's
special secret talent.
Yeah, maybe he's just insane with a putter. Maybe that's what he was doing in college the whole time.
Well, I don't know about that. I think there's rumors to the contrary on that one. If we want to move on to the number 2 pick with the Washington Commanders, Simon, who do the Commanders have taking it to?
They got Jaden Daniels, the person we just talked about. Potential. Some people saying he's better than Caleb Williams, but
which is not right.
Yeah,
being contrarian.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And this one's a bit more interesting to me because there's been a lot of conversation and a lot of things coming out of the Washington Commanders camp in the last little bit about Jaden Daniels. It seemed like they weren't fully on the same page about certain things. I thought I heard something about Jaden Daniels not being too happy about pretty much being grouped in with a bunch of other prospects or something.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're going to group all the stuff we've heard about Caleb Williams as smoke and mirrors, I feel like this is kind of a similar thing. Like, who gives a shit?
Yes, it's a very minor thing.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen and heard about Jaden Daniels, he seems like a very athletic player. He seems like another type of quarterback where it's pretty much assured that he will succeed at the next level. I think Washington's getting a pretty good quarterback. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise that they're going to go QB here. I think we've known this for a good while now. Yeah. They weren't very happy with how things were going with Sam Howell. I think, and obviously they traded him as well. But it's just, I don't think this is too much of a surprise. I think The one thing that could change here, I don't know. Again, I'm talking on my ass here. I could imagine the order of Drake May and Jaden Daniels. I don't know if there's any conversation on them swapping potentially between 2 and 3, but I don't hate this pick. I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think the weird thing is, the thing for me that I always try to watch out for is switches in consensus draft order after the college season has already ended. And the big one I looked to for this was with Zach Wilson, where for a long time, Trevor Lawrence was the consensus number 1, forever in that draft. He'd been the consensus number 1 for that draft since he was about 15 years old. The consensus number 2, however, to go to the Jets for a long time was Justin Fields. And then people start watching Zach Wilson tape and they go, oh, maybe this BYU kid has got it. They start seeing the throw from his pro day is crazy. And I think you just start hyping yourself up to a certain extent.
Simon style scouting right
basically
there.
Basically nothing. Yeah. And it's that's really interesting. Now, I don't necessarily think the same is happening with Jaden Daniels. Because unlike Zach Wilson, Jaden Daniels plays in the SEC. He doesn't get the benefit of playing against weaker competition like Zach Wilson did at BYU. Jaden Daniels is more athletic, is more multi-talented, is a better thrower of the football, can handle himself better under pressure. I do think it's interesting, though, that for a long time, Drake May was the consensus number 2, and that kind of flip-flopped. I wonder if it will have a similar trajectory to where it's man, people just overthought it. But I do think part of the reason it's flip-flopped is because it's come out the Commanders are, this is their guy. They like Daniels over May. In terms of my opinion on that, I do think they're pretty... I think Daniels has a higher floor than May. May has a higher ceiling, from everything that I've seen and heard. Where May will make crazier plays and has higher highs, better highlights, seems to have more arm talent, but he also just makes boneheaded mistakes where he'll just completely dirt a 5-yard curl, and it's what the hell happened? Where Jaden Daniels is more consistent, and you've seen him have a lot of improvement, right? He was at Arizona State to start his career, didn't exactly do very much over there. Not the best situation. Then he comes over to LSU and kind of lights the world on fire, wins the Heisman. That's a lot of progression for a career, and it's really interesting to kind of track that. I don't know. I think it's kind of just what you're looking for in terms of a quarterback, and obviously the Commanders prefer the guy with the higher floor, and I can't necessarily say I fault them for that. I do think it's interesting how the consensus has switched, though.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of just stylistically, I feel like the New England Patriots would be more inclined to take a guy with a higher floor than someone, like you mentioned, Drake May. Not necessarily the safest quarterback at times. Very different to what you would have gotten out of a guy like Mac Jones in previous years and stuff like that, right? He's not going to be your check down artist. He's going to be your I'm looking deep 90% of the time. That type of quarterback, right? And I mean, it's definitely, in my head, I'm just thinking that's a very big switch for the Patriots. Maybe it's just a sign that they know that check down guy doesn't work when the name on the back of the jersey isn't Brady. And I think...
Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily the Patriots' choice either. They're kind of just having to go with whatever's left. That's true. It's very much a Commander's choice.
Which,
in terms of who they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is why there's been rumors about the Patriots trading down.
Yeah. No, I believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, we could... Do you want to move on here?
Yeah, we can move on to the Patriots, because I assume they're taking Drake May.
They're taking Drake
in this mock draft. And those conversations kind of go hand in hand. And you kind of talked about this. I do think if we want to combine the last two, I do think it's very similar in terms of the Bears are a bit of an outlier because they traded for that number 1 pick, where their situation is actually really good. And I think for quarterback especially, situation defines things a lot more than anything else. part of why Mahomes is so good is because he was able to go to a situation that had Tyreek Hill and Andy Reid. It's not that Mahomes isn't talented, and because obviously he's the most talented quarterback we've probably ever seen, but having people around him who could learn how to hone that talent, like at Texas Tech, he had a losing record, right? Like that's because he had Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury had a losing record with Patrick Mahomes in college, right? It is about the situation around you to a certain extent.
That guy was an NFL head coach.
Yeah, it's still crazy. But the Commanders and the Patriots are not good situations. And I think, Simon, I'll ask you this. Do you think, because the Patriots roster is probably one of the worst in the league, right? Like, just looking at it top to bottom, not very good. Do you think it's smart to take a quarterback when you have, like, literally nothing around to help them? Or do you wait and try to take that later when you have a better roster?
I think it just completely depends on the mentality going into this season. If I'm the Patriots and I'm taking Drake May, I mean, if you're going into it thinking that he's going to be the thing that completely changes everything for your team, and this season you're instantly going to contend because you found your quarterback, you can't be doing that. Like, that's not going to work out at all. I think if you go into the season, you take Drake May here, and you go into the year, honestly, letting him compete with a veteran for that number. I think they have Brissett now, right? Like, even just letting even if it comes down to it, letting May sit behind Brissett for a year because your team sucks, because you just want to let him get used to an NFL environment. I don't hate that. Like, that's a situation. I know a lot of Drake May lovers are going to hate me saying that because I know a lot of people are very high on this kid, but it absolutely is the type of thing. Who the hell is he going to be throwing to this year? Like, it's just...
Yeah, I don't think I can name a single Patriot.
I was going to say, I was going to look up a depth chart, but I was like, no, I won't cheat here. I seriously don't know if I could name a single receiver. It's just...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's not a good situation at all. I don't hate it. Like, to actually answer your question, I don't hate taking a quarterback when you really have nothing else. I just think you have to do it right. I don't think you can throw him to the Wolves, because if you throw him to the Wolves, you're going to get every other failed quarterback prospect in existence, because that's what happens, right? But if you go into it thinking you have a guy who will be good down the road, let's let him be good down the road, then things will go good. But
especially with a guy who's boom or bust like Drake May.
Yeah.
Where it's like there is high-end talent, but there's also like quite a few red flags.
Yeah.
In terms of some of the stuff that he struggled with. You're looking at a top 3 receiver core of Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, KJ Osborne. Not great.
I was gonna say that's like,
I don't know.
My Madden depth chart when I traded everybody away for picks.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to. Speaking of rosters that aren't very good, I don't know if we want to move on to pick number 4.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. I mean, it's the Arizona Cardinals. This one, I feel like this one's basically been confirmed as well. It feels like I've been hearing this for a while. They get their new Fitzgerald, Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cardinals. I think, I mean, people have talked about him as arguably one of the best players in this draft. Probably the best player who isn't a quarterback.
Regardless of position.
Yeah, like it's just, I mean, it makes sense. They don't have a lot going over there. Kyler Murray has not really had a good weapon over there since DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, sure, he's had what's his name? Speedy guy, Hollywood. Like he had him for a little bit, but it's just, I don't know. When I look at this roster, I think it's pretty much Kyler Murray and that's it. And even Kyler Murray has given us reasons to doubt him at times. I mean, this is very much an important season, I think, for Kyler Murray's career. I mean, I know he has that big deal at this point. I don't know how long he's on that deal off the top of my head, but at least to me, this is kind of a boomer bust year for Kyler Murray. He needs to have a good year because I don't think he had a very good year last year after coming back from injury. At least I don't remember him being anything too special. when you pay for an athletic quarterback,
I don't think you can blame him.
No, I'm not necessarily saying I'm blaming him.
When you have that team around,
I'm saying if you're going to give him a weapon like Marvin Harrison Jr., he better perform.
Yeah, or at least Marvin Harrison, not necessarily even in the win column, because I think that's a little out of the picture for.
I just want to see something that
Marvin Harrison has a good rookie season.
I just want to see something that makes me feel better about that contract that Kyler Murray currently has.
Yeah, so he's under contract until 2029. So
Jeez.
I think he's locked in for a while.
Oh, you better hope he performs.
Which isn't a bad thing. Which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because I do think the Cardinals, because the one thing you say this is pretty much locked in. The only other thing, which we can directly parlay this into what ESPN has going on next, but because the only other thing that I think could happen with this pick is that they trade down, because that's been a lot of the conversations, because a lot of these teams need quarterback, and JJ McCarthy has been looped into kind of because I think there's been a top three, which is the people who are likely going to go 1, 2, 3. It's the Williams, it's the May, it's the Jaden Daniels, and then you have your tier 2 guys of McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and McCarthy has kind of risen to the top of that list and has been projected to go in the top 5 to someone trading up, like the Broncos, like the Vikings, and that's kind of where the conversation has been around this Cardinals pick, because, I mean, you look at what they did last year. They traded down from 3 last year so that the Texans could take Will Anderson, right? Who's to say they won't do that again and just keep building up picks down the road? But who knows? If they stick and pick Marvin Harrison, that is a great pick. They get one of the most talented players in the draft, who in a year without as many talented quarterbacks probably could have gone number 1.
Yeah.
Right?
No, absolutely.
Great situation for him to go to. Great that the young wide receiver would have a very talented quarterback. I kind of disagree with the Kyler Murray boom or bust thing. I think he has proven himself. I just think he's never had a good team.
That's fair. Yeah.
Like,
no, I just think
there were a couple of years in there where he where obviously they had some great starts to seasons, but he was also dealing with Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh, sure.
As his coach.
Yeah, that's fair.
Where they would completely tank
the
latter half of the season after starting 7-1 or whatever.
And I'm not trying to argue that it's entirely his fault. I just mean he's finally getting. If this is the year where he's finally getting a lot of things to go his way. He's getting a lot of decent weapons. He's getting a lot of, even if like you pointed out, it doesn't have to mean wins. I just want to have a reason to not think of that contract as the worst thing I've ever seen, because he does not have a pretty contract.
I don't think it is.
Well, it's a lot of money.
I think the contract is fine. I think the contract of the year, it's a quarterback. You're going to pay him a lot of money. It's absolutely fine. I don't know. It's like, in comparison to a lot of other quarterbacks, I don't think it's all that bad. Like,
I just mean, cool. You're making a lot of money. Show me why I paid you that money. Is more my logic when it comes to Kyler Murray.
The big extension doesn't even kick in until it hasn't even kicked in until this year.
Oh.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
He only got paid $16 million as a cap hit last year.
Oh.
This is 2024 is the year where he finally kicks in and it balloons.
Yeah.
But it's still he is still, in terms of just pure talent, a top 10 quarterback in the league. He just hasn't had the cast around him to show that. Yeah. I don't think this is a Kyler Murray thing. I think it's just he's getting a weapon he hasn't had since DeAndre Hopkins. And that is very nice to have.
Do you want to keep
it's something
moving here?
That the Cardinals, I think, have been trending in the right direction for a while. Yeah. And hopefully not hopefully as a Seahawks fan. Hopefully they suck at Marvin Harrison. But I don't care as much about the Cardinals because they don't matter. Anyways, if we want to move on to the number 5 pick, held by the Chargers, but I don't think that's how ESPN has it turning out.
No, ESPN has them trading down with the Vikings, which has the Vikings obviously getting number 5. The Chargers get number 11, number 23, number 108, plus a 3rd-round pick in 2025. So they're pretty much just getting a haul, and they're still going to get a pick just outside of the top 10 with that. Not a bad deal for the Chargers in this situation.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly scroll down and see who they end up taking with that number 11, considering we're not even
J.C.
going to talk.
Latham.
Yeah, they're going to end up. So they go offensive tackle, which is a pretty good
It's a bit
choice.
J.C. Latham is a bit of an interesting choice at 11.
Is he?
But
I don't really know who he is, but
he's like
I will not.
projected in
I will
the
not.
late 20s.
Oh, okay. I will not pretend to know a lot about the offensive tackles of this draft, all right? But it's just, I just more mean like stylistically, I don't hate that. I feel like Herbert has needed a bit more protection for a while now. I mean, he needs a bit more of everything at this point, but I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt.
There is better options, but some people are really high on him.
Yeah.
Anyways, that is a very good deal.
That's definitely not. That's not the important part of this. The Vikings get number 5, and in this, they get J.J. McCarthy, their Kirk Cousins replacement.
Yep. And, I mean, we talk a lot about situation. I do think if you're getting to throw to Justin Jefferson, you're going into a good situation. Kevin O'Connell is a good coach. The Vikings have been a good team over the last few years, and I don't think they've gotten all that much worse. They've kind of stayed level. That's a really good receiving core with not only Jefferson, but Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. You got Aaron Jones. The one thing with J.J. McCarthy that people are worried about is the fact that, well, at Michigan, he didn't exactly throw the ball very much.
Yeah.
Michigan was a very run-heavy team.
Well, he just had an insane team around him, just in general.
Yeah. And they leaned so heavily on the running attack that there's just not a huge sample size in terms of showing what he can do. It's like the plays are there, but you have to look for them a lot more. And a lot of the conversation that I've heard on a lot of the draft podcasts that I listen to is like, can he not do it, or has he just not been given the opportunity to show that he can do it? It's like, just because we haven't seen it doesn't mean he can't do it.
Is he a system quarterback?
Yeah, that's the tough thing. I mean, we don't even know what he is.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they just didn't give him the chance to throw the ball very much. Because you see high-level throws from him, but it's just like, we don't know what that looks like. It's a very much a gamble.
Sure.
And that's the reason he's not in that top tier. But I mean, like, everything else you look for, like, I mean, obviously, winner at the highest level and winning the national championship game. It's not necessarily just a quarterback thing, but it's not unimportant. And I do think, at least going to the Vikings, like, that's a pretty good situation.
Yes.
Like,
no, absolutely.
He's honestly being given a better chance to succeed just going there versus a Drake May or Jaden Daniels going to the Commanders or the Patriots. Like, that's what he has going in his favor, even if he is a worse prospect than those two. And is he worth a trade up to 5? I don't know. But quarterbacks are a valuable asset, and even if he's like 20th, 25th player on your board overall in terms of talent, because he's a quarterback, he's going to get bumped up a lot.
Yeah. No, and I don't disagree with you on any of that. I mean, he absolutely is it's an interesting choice. Like you mentioned, we don't really know what we're going to get with him. But we'll see what the Vikings get. I mean, like you mentioned, they still have a lot of really good weapons over there. There's a reason Kirk Cousins was able to do as much as he was able to. It's still pretty much the same team as far as I can remember. So, I mean, you're pretty much just sliding him. I mean, sure, it might not be as good in dominance as he had at Michigan. But
no.
At least offensively, he has all the weapons to make it work. It's just like you pointed out. Can he do it? Can he make those insane throws to Jefferson? Can he pull all of these things off? Like, we just don't know.
Yep.
There's a lot of question marks around him. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. I think we can move on.
Yep.
We've already been talking for 30 minutes, so I think through the last 5, maybe speed round, yeah. New York Giants taking Malik Neighbors at 6 is what ESPN has here. I mean, yeah, I'll let you go first on this one.
it's not. I mean, the one thing about this top 10 is that it is very chalky in terms of like, oh boy, top 3 quarterbacks go top 3. Then you get a run in receivers. Then you get an offensive tackle. And it's all pretty the same. I don't think I've seen the Giants been mocked not to draft a receiver in like any of these. because, I mean, quarterback, like, if a quarterback falls, maybe. If you get a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May, like, inexplicably falling throughout the draft, and nobody picks them up, you can see the Giants taking them. But when you've got a receiver core of Darius Slayton, pretty good. But then you got, like, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Isaiah McKenzie. It's not exactly the most talented.
And it's the same one that they've had for a while now. At least at the upper half.
Except for Jalen.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah.
Obviously coming in last year. But it is a lot of, like, second round guys who haven't really, like, they're good role players, but they're not going to, like, light the world on fire. Malik Neighbors has the potential to do that. A lot of that comes in terms of, like, he's the quick, shifty guy in this class where yards after catch is going to be a big thing with him. He's going to get open fast. He's going to be an explosive playmaker. It's the kind of thing where it's most boards have Harrison kind of in a tier of his own, and then Neighbors and Adunze flip-flop 2-3. I'm more of an Adunze guy myself, although I may be biased because I've seen a lot more of him. But not to say that Neighbors doesn't have talent, and, like, either one of those guys you get, like, pretty surefire talent, and New York has a spot where they need him.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. I do like the idea of them taking a quarterback because of the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of Daniel Jones at this point. I don't think many people are, but they do have him being paid quite a bit of money at this point, I think. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like at this point you're just giving him... It's not like he's had a lot of weapons in his time with the Giants. It's not like you've necessarily given him all that you can to see if he's really got it. And giving him Malik Neighbors in a situation like this, like he pointed out, I think it'll be good for him. I think you're really giving him a potential top receiver for the first time in his career that I can think of. Like, I can't really think of a good receiver
Giants
that they really had
receivers
there.
have not been good since probably OBJ. And OBJ at his peak did not cross over with Daniel Jones.
So there you go. Yeah, it's as simple as that, right? You're just giving him a better chance to succeed. I don't hate it. I think it's a good pick for them. It is probably their biggest need. So we'll see how it goes for them. I think it's probably going to be accurate on this one. We can move on, though, to the Tennessee Titans. At 7, they take Joe Alt, offensive tackle, Notre Dame.
Which is another one where it's, like, very chalky. Like, Joe Alt to the Titans is kind of like, oh, yeah, that's another one to really just check off the box, and it's like, they need offensive linemen, and Joe Alt is the best one available.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any, like, you can't go any further than that. They've got a quarterback, they're, like, at this point, the top 4 are going to be gone, and you're probably, like, the Titans, either way, I think, are committed to seeing what they have in Will Levis. They just signed Tony Pollard, and there's no good running backs that go this high anyways. Receiver, you could potentially have seen them taking one of the top 3 that are left, but they signed Calvin Ridley, so that's probably a sign they're not going to do that. Offensive line is where there's issues. Their starting tackles right now are Dylan Radins and Nicholas Petit-Friere. Not exactly
household names,
especially with your young quarterback. Like, you want to do your best to protect your young quarterback. Joe Alt's the kind of guy where you just kind of lock him in one side and forget about him for 10, 15 years in terms of how it's been talked about.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you want an offensive lineman to be.
Oh yeah.
It's another one that's a big no-brainer, just in terms of positional need and the fact that there is a guy that's top 10 worthy right there. Like, there's a deep offensive tackle class, and Joe Alt is the best one, so he goes at 7.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, makes sense to me. I don't disagree with any of that. Do you want to move on to Atlanta?
Sure.
All right. So at number 8,
this I think is where the ESPN has, like, the most interesting deviation from consensus.
Because I will admit, I did have to ask you how to pronounce his name on this one before the podcast, because I haven't heard this guy's name before, actually. Liatu Latu, right?
Yeah.
And I'm hoping he makes sure that I remember his name at the NFL level with the Falcons here, because I mean it makes sense. It's an edge guy. They're taking someone who is just going to make their defense better. But I don't. Where you said this is a pretty big deviation from a lot of other mock drafts. Where is he normally?
About the 20s.
Oh wow. Okay, so this would be quite a reach.
Say, well, it would be no. Okay, 20s is it's like. I've seen him be picked anywhere from about 15, 14 to like.
Well, still a reach.
It's not necessarily as big a reach as you might think.
Okay.
It's just interesting. Most people have Dallas Turner going here. It's not a positional deviate. Like Atlanta's probably going to go edge rusher, just because you look at their team and it's like, because think about the top 7 players that we've had go. Offense. This is the first defensive player off the board at number what is this, 8?
8, yeah.
It's a very offensive heavy draft, and so they're going to take the best defensive player available if you're Atlanta, because you've obviously had an insanely stacked offense in terms of skill players for the last 3 or 4 years. The receivers you had, you've got Drake London, you've got Bijan, you've got Kyle Pitts. You've got Kirk Cousins.
You got all the weapons.
Your offense is set.
Yeah.
Your offensive line is good. Your offense is set. Now it's time to build up that defense. So that's why they look to edge rusher. Dallas Turner has been the guy who I've mainly seen here, but I think there have been people who like Liatu Latu better. And they are kind of the 1-2 guys in terms of edge rusher that I've seen. You throw a Jared Verse in there sometimes, but those 2 guys have been kind of 1-2. I think the pros for Latu are he's a lot more refined in terms of he's got a bigger skill set. He's not just a one-trick pony. He's got a lot of pass rush moves. Really shows up on tape, where he's really varied in the stuff he can do. Biggest red flag and big reason that he's not being projected at 8, injury history. He has been very injured. He was actually forced to medically retire at a certain point in his career because of how bad his injuries were. He came back and he was able to produce this season, but obviously teams are going to be scared off by that. Big comparison people make to that, however, is Jalen Phillips, who had the same kind of thing happen, where he had to medically retire, came back, had a good end to his college career, but fell to the 20s to the Dolphins and has now been spectacular. So you wonder if a similar kind of thing is going to happen to Latu, where he gets a little bit undervalued because of his injury and then goes out and lights the world on fire.
Yeah.
But obviously, no team is going to want to take a guy if he's going to be injured your entire rookie contract and not going to be able to contribute.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely not what you want. I like I said, for fit, I love it. I think it makes sense. I think at the very least they need to go defense, like you pointed out. It's just going to come down to who. ESPN obviously taking a bit more of a controversial pick, but it still makes sense, at least for the Falcons. Yep. We can move on, though, to the Chicago Bears. We already I don't know if we really touched on it. Obviously, Bears at number 9, and ESPN has them taking a receiver in Rome Odunze. And I think you pointed it out earlier, the fact that you're fairly high on this guy because he went to Washington. So I'll let you just take this one.
Yeah, he is. So I've watched him more than any other player in the draft, just because, I saw him live. I'm a Washington fan, so I've watched lots of Washington games. And it's crazy how good this guy is. It's actually insane. I love him so much as a prospect. He has this intensity for the game, you just see it where he's giving his all every single play. You absolutely love to see that. He is a spectacular contested catch guy. Literally, Michael Penix would throw these prayer deep balls up to him, and it would just fit. It would be a great throw by Penix, but an even better catch by Odunze. He's not open necessarily when some of these balls get thrown, but he still makes every single catch. It's you just know when the ball goes up to him that it's going to be brought down. he is the perfect kind of like dominant X receiver that could instantly become a number one. Like if I'm looking for like I know you've got lots of good offensive talent in this draft, especially with like some of the quarterbacks that go. I know it would probably, especially if Rome Odunze pops off in Chicago, the award would probably go to Caleb Williams, but I still kind of see him as a dark horse, like offensive rookie of the year candidate, just with how insanely talented he is, and it's just like he just catches the ball like literally every time. You would have teams double covering him, triple covering him, doesn't matter. Every time Penix put up the ball to him, he would come down with it. And the one thing that I will say, it's just like he's not necessarily a guy who you're going to dink and dunk down the field with. He's not a Malik Neighbors where you're just going to throw it to him on a slant and watch him like run down the field and score a 90-yard touchdown off of that after being thrown a 5-yard pass. He's the kind of guy
he's
where
your deep threat.
You look and there's a lot more 40-yard throws than there is 10-yard throws. And I think teams need that. Yeah. And to be able to have in a first year a receiving core of Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen, like you're just setting Caleb Williams up for so much success at that point. I love this kid coming out of Washington. I think he's going to be spectacular with everything that I've seen. Obviously, the one big thing that people worry about with contested catch guys is like why are their catches contested because they can't get open. I don't think that's necessarily the case with him. I think it's just like when he's in those situations, he's able to make the most of them when he's not open. It's not that he can't get open. But I think he's going to be great. I think he's pretty much as much of a flawless receiver prospect as you can get.
Yeah. I don't disagree with any of that. I think it makes sense for the Bears to take a wide receiver here. You're just adding to the weapons you already have. I mean, you're joining a very experienced wide receiver group. It's very loaded. He's obviously going to be third on the depth chart behind DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. And I mean, how that works. Long. Oh, okay. Okay, so you're that high on him.
I would not be shocked if I would be shocked if he hasn't passed Keenan Allen by week like 5.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he's their number 1 option by the end of the season.
Wow, okay. Put that on a graphic. Yeah. Send that out to all of the world.
He's within a couple years he's going to be a top 10 receiver in them.
Okay. I don't know if I have anything else to add to that. I don't have a crazy prediction. But number 10, New York Jets, ESPN has them going with Brock Bowers, which is just another guy to help Aaron Rodgers out here. It's going to make their offense just that much more talented. They've already got quite a few weapons for Rodgers to work with, but it's just going to help him out just a little bit more.
Yeah. And I mean, it is kind of an obvious pick, but the one thing that I would say in opposition to that is just like potentially going offensive tackle. You just pick one of the better ones that are left, whatever you fancy, whether it's an Olufashanu, whether it's a Talise Fuaga, any one of these guys who are out there. Like that's kind of the other thing that I've seen mocked to them as an offensive tackle. Just because you have a pretty decent offensive line right now, but those guys are very old in Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. So you would want a guy who's younger, and you just want to get as much protection for Rodgers after what happened last year.
Yeah.
But obviously Brock Bowers is a pretty special player. He's one of those kind of like tight ends. It's not really a tight end in terms of how talented he is with the ball, where it's like that label feels almost like a little bit derogatory to the kind of talent he has. But I don't know. Like it's the kind of thing where it's like I don't think they can go wrong here, whether they pick Bowers or an offensive tackle. I like the pick. I think by doing this, you're saying you're trying to maximize it this year specifically. Whereas offensive tackle, you're like, we're investing more in the future for when our 35 to 37-year-old offensive tackles inevitably retire in the next couple of years.
Yeah, No, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think it would be smart to potentially go tackle here. Because, I mean, like you pointed out, A-Rod did go down pretty bad last year. And if that happens again, you're just... I mean, the same thing's going to happen. You're screwed. You do not have... I mean, even now, you don't have a backup who's going to slide into that spot, really. I don't know. I don't know what the Jets do if he goes down. So I wouldn't hate if they went tackle, but, I mean, purely off of best player available at this point, I mean, Brock Bowers. It makes sense. Like you pointed out, he's the type of guy who can really do it all. He's going to... If you take him, you're not going to... It's not a bad pick, but I don't think it's a bad pick if you go offensive tackle either. I think you're totally right on that one. So I don't disagree with you. But that's the entire list, or at least as much as we are going to go over. I don't want to go through... Yeah, I don't know about you, but whole top 30. And in my own head, I was thinking to myself, do I have enough time to put this out by Thursday? And the answer is probably no. So just... So, to all the people out there, this might be a funny thing to watch back on when Brock Bowers goes number one or whatever the hell ends up happening that blows everybody's mind.
It's more likely he goes number, 25. So I've seen him slip that far.
Whatever ends up happening. Yeah. It'll probably be funny to watch this when it comes out and just laugh at us being complete idiots, like when Odunze goes undrafted and Caleb Williams inevitably falls all the way down to pick 15. It'll be great. That's my prediction. Put that on a graphic. Caleb Williams to the Seahawks. Let's make it happen.
Let's go. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you want to see more Trick Play, make sure you tune in YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We got all the stuff. If you want to hear us but not see our faces. Man, it's so tough when I do this in a new room. I literally do this in a new room. But I'm getting pretty good at it. Fresh Take Network.
Boom! It's not hard for me. I do it in the same damn room.
Podcast, you'll find us in that feed.
Yeah.
God damn it. Shout out for this week. Oh my god, I have to come up with one on the spot here.
I know. We're running out of time on recording this. A pull behind the curtain. We're running out of time, so we're speed running this outro. But
so I've got to I got a speed round of shout out here. Oh my god, this is why you should shout out a drink every week. I don't know if I've shouted this out yet, so I'm just gonna shout out. I'm gonna shout out the new Coke Spiced.
It's so ass.
I love this shit. It's good. Everybody I've talked to hates it.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. It's so good. It's so good. I don't understand why people don't like it.
I had somebody. You know what's the funny thing?
Nice
Caleb
raspberry.
I had someone recommend it to me, and I went, okay, raspberry Coke sounds good. That sounds great. I love me some raspberries. I love me some Coke. Not that kind. Get that thought out of your gutter. But, or whatever the hell. But, I like me some raspberry Coke. I went and bought one. I was like, this tastes like shit. This tastes like medicine almost. It's bad.
That's what
Although, then again, I will say, I am not a fan of most flavored Cokes. I will say that. But, it is significantly worse than the other ones.
If you do want a better raspberry Coke experience, find the BC raspberry Coke bottles that they have in grocery stores.
Absolutely. Those are good. Those are great.
Raspberry,
yes.
Those are very good.
The spiced ones are
better
shit.
than the Coke Spiced.
Yes.
But I still really like the spiced Cokes.
Yes.
They're very good.
Yeah.
Don't listen to, even though I have recommended this to a great many people, and I think one person has also liked it. But I don't care. It's very good.
Okay. All right. For my shout-outs, I've been working at a new place for the last little bit, and they have this vending machine that when I first saw it, I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. So my shout-out is going to this one specific vending machine that I saw, because just get this. I don't have a photo of it. I don't have nothing. But it is a vending machine that has it has a side for drinks, and all the drinks are cold too. They have the drinks for, frozen. And then on the other side, they have a spot for snacks, which goes everything from they have ramen in there, they have all of the shit you could probably get. Like, it is the coolest. And guess what? They're all stupid cheap. Like a Coke was $1.50 for
Really?
like a ramen cup. It would be like $1.50.
Oh my God.
It is the best vending machine ever. I got a Coke there like the first day, and then the other day I was there late, and I kind of needed something to eat because I was drifting, and I went and I saw that ramen thing, and I was like, oh hell yeah, and then it fell all the way down and got stuck at the bottom because that machine is absolutely not made to drop ramen out of it. The gap is like this big at the bottom, and the cup's obviously like this big, and I just watched that drop and just the despair I felt in that moment. That was pure depression. And it was also the fact, you know what, the one downside of this machine is it only takes coins, and that was like my last coins, and I was so sad. So yeah, my shout out, but also negative shout out, goes to that machine, because in concept it's the best thing ever, but in actuality it's yeah, quite literally. In reality it's kind of bad, but whatever. I'll just go cry about my lost noodles. Anyway, that's it. Go check out the podcast everywhere. Caleb said earlier. I never got them back. No, it was stuck. I sat there trying for like. I only had like 3 or 4 minutes to run over and grab these ramen noodles. I had it all planned out in my head. You know, when you only have that long, I like sprinted over to the machine, threw the coins in there, already had them in my hand when I got there. Then it got stuck, and I was like, I don't really have time to jam my hand up this machine and give it a prostate exam to try and get my noodles out.
Some sucker got.
I know. You know, I honestly, when I get in today, I'm probably gonna go check and see if they're still there, because I'm curious if someone would have got them out or not. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Exactly. Yeah. My $1.50 noodles. That's what I live for. Anyway, go check out the podcast everywhere. Fresh Take Network in that corner. What else? Apple, Spotify, yada yada yada. YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. You should do that. We're at 70 subscribers now. We're 30 off 100. Help us get to 100. Come on over.
Crazy.
We should be crazy. Wow. It all Go. I don't know. YouTube is hard. I feel like a YouTuber now. Go get us to 100 subscribers. Do it, you damn coward. Anyway, watch next week or something. I don't know. How did we do these outros again? How do I podcast? I don't know. Subscribe.